Hello there. Yes, we are geeks assembled, and we have gathered here today because I have a cunning plan. Yes, I think we're going to take a look at Blackadder Goes Forth, the final episode, GoodByeee. So let's go over to Craig, see what Craig thinks about Blackadder. Go ahead, Craig.
I really enjoyed this comedy episode. I really liked these guys when they were first together in something called Not the 9 O'Clock News. I don't know if what came before, but it's like a comedy duo piece of magic. Not even a duo, but like a gang. I remember some of the early episodes where it was like set in like the medieval times with the lady who was in trial of a Time Lord, and she was playing some sort of queen on the throne. Can't remember it. She was in Carry On as well. Can't remember her name. But yeah, it was really, really funny. The pace was quite good, especially like when he was making it. Especially when he said, when the sergeant Darling said, "Is it a cappuccino?" That made me laugh out loud because I'm a bit of a coffee fan myself. So yeah, and also the end was really sad. I mean, especially when you see the poppy fields, and it was quite moving for a comedy piece. But that's how good these guys were. They knew what they were doing, and yeah, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
A 9 out of 10. Thank you, Craig. Just don't have any tea, whatever you do. Let's go over to Beef Dad. See what Beef Dad has to say about this episode.
I think you mean coffee, don't you? Well, I've watched all of the Blackadders right from the very first episode right the way through the whole gamut of everything. Tudor with Queen Elizabeth, and the Georgian one, that was hysterical. I particularly loved their Christmas Carol. The Blackadder Christmas Carol was incredible. But this episode, it was the last one of the Blackadder series, and yeah, brilliant performances from everybody in it. Stephen Fry playing General Sir Anthony Cecil Hogmanay Melchett was just absolutely superb. Always was, all the way through it. Hugh Laurie, who is now a big Hollywood star and has got his own walk on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which was presented to him by Stephen Fry, which was quite funny. Brilliant, as always. Tim McInnery playing Captain Darling. And, as always, cracked on from a great height by just about everybody. Rowan Atkinson, what can you say about the man? He's just a phenomenon. He really is just a phenomenon. He is absolutely incredible. And then, of course, the archaeologist, Tony Robinson, playing Baldrick. Baldrick is probably one of the most disgusting comedy creations ever, but it works so brilliantly. I'll always remember him in a very, very early episode when there wasn't much food around, and he would hang a piece of cheese off the end of his nose and lie there with his mouth open in hopes of catching a mouse or a rat. That was absolutely hysterical. And what was lovely was the cameo in this. They didn't have that many cameos really in Blackadder, and that was Jeffrey Palmer playing Field Marshal Haig. Lovely, fitted in perfectly with the entire cast. And as has been mentioned, the final going over the top scene. I remember watching it live, and watching it live, there were tears in my eyes. I found it very, very sad, very, very moving, and brilliantly, brilliantly done. So for me, this actually gets a 10.
A 10, thank you, Beef Dad. Now let's boom, 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 over to Susan. Go ahead, Susan.
Hello. Baldric here. Little hungry, little mistreated, but hey, that's the way it goes when you're in the army. Yeah, anyway, Baldric, phenomenal, fun character. I liked, Rowan Atkinson, Blackadder. I can't praise him enough. I like everything that he's done. Mr. Bean, Johnny English, bunch of other really weird things in his career, including playing the Doctor in a camp, quasi canonical, quasi not canonical thing. It was the Curse of the Fatal Death. Anyway, couldn't get enough of you'll never have enough of Rowan Atkinson. And I really liked Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie. Wow, great. I've only really seen a dose of Fry and Laurie, and not all that familiar with Blackadder. I've watched a bit of it here and there, but this one it did have a really moving end, and the buildup was all like, there was the Section 8 trying to get yourself kicked out of the army because of being bonkers thing with sticking underwear on your head and pencils up your nose. It was like, the Klinger thing from MASH. It's always precious and precocious and fun, and I really loved that it was like, it is the perfect answer to wars. Just go fucking crazy. Anyway, oops, sorry, didn't mean to swear, but yeah, anyway, it was really, really good, and so I'll give it a 10 out of 10.
A 10 out of 10. Thank you, Susan. Now let's go over to Connor. Let's go to Leeds. Go ahead, Connor.
Thank you. I didn't think I'd seen this episode before, but I have. I saw it in an English class in high school. And I'm glad that I watched it again, because it's really one of the most moving pieces of comedy I've ever seen. It hits you hard, because it doesn't really... It's not really a sort of fantasy version of war. It's the real thing. You've got Tim McInnery, which is really bizarre seeing him as a young person, because I'm used to seeing him as these slimy characters. Now he sort of has a new sort of typecast where because he was obviously in Doctor Who at one point in the Ood episode in series 4, and he's since been in a drama on Channel 4 with Robbie Coltrane about the paedophile circle and stuff in the UK. Really, really great actor. He's brilliant. I just can't fault him at all. Obviously, you have legends like Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie, and Rowan Atkinson. Stephen Fry, he just has a hairnet on his moustache, but is wonderful. I just love Stephen Fry. He just lights up the screen because he's such a brilliant personality all the time. Throughout his entire career, he's just been he's an inspiration to everyone, and he's one of the greatest British people of all time, as is most of this cast, because as Beef Dad mentioned, Hugh Laurie, of course, has gone on to be a huge Hollywood star, and he's a fantastic actor as well. And Rowan Atkinson, of course, is a legend of comedy. So it's ridiculously wonderful how this cast is. And then obviously you have amateur historian Tony Robinson as well, sort of finishing off the main cast, and it's just absolutely wonderful. There's not a bad performance in this entire thing. There's not a bad line in this entire thing. And then you have Jeffrey Palmer as the only sort of guest star of the entire affair as the field marshal, and he's brilliant as well. There's seriously not a bad part about this. It's really moving. It catches the brutality of war and how you have Tim McInnery's character, as I said, is sort of doubtful that he wants to go over the top, and then of course you have Rowan Atkinson, Blackadder, is also feeling the same thing. It really is. It's real emotion. And the end is just so sad because you go from seeing them all charging to it fades to a field of poppies. And it's one of the most heartbreaking things I think you could ever end a comedy on. It just is the most ridiculous, beautiful episode of comedy I've ever seen. So I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10 for sure. This is gold dust in comedy, I think.
Another 10. Thank you, Connor. Come on, Lee. Make it a 4th. Come on.
Yeah. Blackadder Goes Forth. As it's been said, I remember this when it was broadcast back in 1989 as well. And it made me cry as well at the end of this. But we'll get there in a minute. The cast is, well, through all the series of Blackadder, the cast have been wonderful. But in the 4th series, they were on top form. As we say, Stephen Fry's Melchett, yeah, just brilliant. And Tim McInnery is Darling. I mean, every time Melchett said something involving Darling's name, you just got that innuendo. Come on, Darling, and all like that. That was just so funny. But I did like Tim McInnery's face, Darling's face when Melchett gave him the piece of paper. Fast forwarded into the front line. That the sheer horror on his face. I don't want to go. You don't want to what? You don't want to leave me? No, it's okay. It's just and Rowan Atkinson as Blackadder, his performance in this series as Edmund Blackadder, brilliant. I mean, for a man, not a lot of people know this, but for a man who stutters, you wouldn't tell. But once he's acting, that the stutter just is gone, and he's just. It's a pure gold comedy with him, with his sarcasm all the time. It's sarcasm it's brilliant. Baldrick, of course, with his coffee making machine, with the saliva and the mud, and we won't talk about where the little bit of the chocolate on top, but and his little poem about the German guns. So we say, boom, 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 boom. And Blackadder's reply was, let me guess, next line, boom, boom. Just brilliant. And Hugh Laurie is George. Dim George, brilliant. The way he's telling the story about all his mates who signed up for the war on the first day of the war. He's telling all the names, and they're all dead now. But the team works so well together, and I don't know if anybody noticed, but most of this episode is just in that room, really. It cuts away, for the field march, and it cuts away to Melchett, but most of this episode is just those three in that room working together. And that, for me, is just brilliant comedy, brilliant writing, brilliant acting. You could, honestly, you could take that episode and you could put that on stage. You could have that on stage. And I'm surprised they never did a Blackadder play or anything like that. But that could have just gone from screen to stage, that. And we come to where they go over the top. That, for me, was one of the most brilliant scenes, and also it did bring me to tears. And today, when I rewatched it today, I was welling up. Because they all know that Blackadder and Darling know they're all going to die. We never found out what Baldrick's plan is, his cunning plan, just before he goes over the top. But it's where they go over the top to the theme of Blackadder, the faint theme of Blackadder, then that fades away to, black and white. Then it goes, the poppy field appears. No credits roll at the end of this. It's just silent. Just the poppy field silent, and then the BBC logo at the bottom. I can't fault this. It's brilliant, and I do miss this series. And it is a fitting tribute to all the army, the soldiers who were fallen in war. That the comedy just wins it overall. This is a fitting tribute to those things, and that at the end of this episode just proves it. That that is respecting the fallen in war. So for me, it gets a 10.
A 10. And I have to say what Lee says about the ending. First off, about the ending, it's the slow motion and the explosion slowly coming, and how it fades. But it's also the music, just the piano of the music. It's just it sends shivers down your spine as you watch it every single time. I mean, I've seen this lots of times, and it's also Baldrick's line of "I've got a cunning plan" as well. Because that's one of the most famous lines, if not the most famous line in the show. And that's one of the last lines it goes out with. That's one of the last lines. But as everybody else has said, this is just funny from beginning to the very end. It doesn't let up. It doesn't lull. It doesn't let up. It's joke after joke after joke after joke. And you're just belly laughing. It's not like little laughter. It's absolutely belly laughing. I mean, we all remember the boom, 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 boom poem, but there was the other poem before that, and Blackadder when he's taking the mick out of it and stuff. Well, it started off bad, and then and it's just funny throughout. I don't think you could ever replace any of the cast. You couldn't replace Rowan Atkinson as Blackadder or Tony Robinson as Baldrick, because they are those characters and they are brilliant. They work brilliantly together. It's like Rowan Atkinson. It's like it's the facial stuff as well. It's the facial stuff. I mean, you watch his like, you see his tongue move and things like that. It's just you know what I mean? And it's just the way he looks and the way he just reacts and looks at Baldrick. And then you got Baldrick's poor hamster, and you've got all the coffee in that, and the spit being the milk, and the dandruff being the sugar. And Baldrick is disgusting. He's disgusting and weird, but that's what makes him funny. I mean, you could never remake this. I hope they never ever attempt to remake this ever. They should never bring this back ever. They can bring it back with Baldrick and Blackadder, Rowan Atkinson and Tony Robinson, but don't bring it back with a new cast. Bring it back with the old cast. It's the only way you could do it. Don't bring it back with anyone new. Susan's waving her finger at me. Are you all right there, Susan? Do you want to say something?
With you.
Oh, all right, you agree with me. So I was being told off. That's all right then. But I've actually met Tony Robinson, but I was so young I can't actually remember it. But my dad said, "Yeah, I've met Tony Robinson, and he spoke to me, but I don't remember it at all." So he was in Wales for something. He was in Wales. Who knows what he was doing there, but I can't remember it, sadly. But
probably Time Team.
Well, I don't know. Was he doing Time Team in the 90s? Yeah. Oh, it probably was then. Yeah. But for me, this is the best. Well, one of the best final episodes of any show. This is one of the best final episodes ever. With regardless of what show. Usually comedies end badly. I can't remember a comedy that really ends well. I can't remember one. I would put Heidi High in there as ending well. I think Heidi High ended absolutely brilliantly. Heidi High brings me to tears when Peggy finally gets the yellow coat and Maplin's closed down, and it absolutely breaks my heart. That one does. But this isn't about Heidi High, but this has to get a 10. It's a gold-plated 10, as Beef Dad would put it. It's gold-plated with, let's put a bit of chocolate sprinkles on top and a bit of dandruff too from Baldrick's head. So I'm going to throw the floor open to whoever wants to speak.
Well, you got to give praise to the writing of Richard Curtis and Ben Elton. Without whom, after the first series of Blackadder, there was going to axe it, but then they brought Ben Elton in and to sort of rejig it all about, and then Blackadder 2 came along, and the rest is history. And as you say, I agree with you, Alan. It is the best send-off a series could ever have, and it makes you think about war.
Actually, I was going to bring that bit up, what you said about the series nearly being axed, because if you think about it, the first series is really poor compared to this. It doesn't really work. I mean, you've got some famous people in there like Brian Blessed,
Peter Cook.
But it didn't really work, did it? It didn't really click.
Yeah, it did gel. It just didn't gel the first series, but they stuck with it after getting different writers in. And
thank God they did. And of course, Richard Curtis, Vicar of Dibley.
Yep, and Ben Elton went on to do the young ones with great ability.
He did the young ones before this.
Let Beef Dad speak now. I think he's dying to speak. He's dying to.
Sorry.
What was I going to say?
That's a classic.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, Lee was mentioning that an awful lot of it took place with just Blackadder, Baldrick, and George. And one of the wonderful things about the series that preceded this one was an awful lot of it centered around those three people. And that the Georgian one, with George as the dopey king, Blackadder as his manservant, and Baldrick as basically the sort of the lowest of the low, as always. And yeah, the melding of the three of them is just absolutely amazing. And that is one of the reasons why they used it so much in Blackadder 4, because the combination just worked so incredibly well. And basically, it was those three in the trench, and Melchett and Darling back at
HQ
base or wherever it is they were, but certainly away from all the work.
HQ.
And you. And so basically, really, they continued using the arrangement that they'd used in the Georgian one, and that is why it works so brilliantly.
Yes, I agree. Has anybody else got anything to add? Connor?
Did Richard Curtis write the first series?
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
It's a bit weird because these days you'd never axe anything that was written by Richard Curtis.
Well, he did the Vicar of Dibley and some others, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was written.
Did he do the IT? Did he do IT? Did Richard Curtis write IT? That comedy?
The first series of Blackadder, was written by Richard Curtis and Rowan Atkinson.
Oh, Rowan Atkinson.
And you don't something that were written by them. It makes no sense. I mean, these are all legends. The entire show is just filled with legends of their particular jobs. You know, you've got two writing legends in Ben Elton and Richard. It's just how can you axe a show like that? But they do it. I mean, it makes no sense to me. But yeah, so this show is just gold dust, I think.
They didn't axe Blackadder, did they? It came to a natural end. It came to a natural end, didn't it? They decided to end it. It wasn't
to consider axing something by Richard Curtis.
Yeah, but back then he wasn't.
I know, but back at it now, you'd think it was ludicrous.
Yep.
Yeah, but it was only starting out back then. This was early 80s. This about 80. What was it? 80, 81, 82. Blackadder 1.
I know. I'm just saying on a purely reflective sort of note. Looking back now, if someone told you now they were thinking about axing something written by Richard Curtis, you'd think the BBC had gone mad.
Hindsight is 2020, right?
Say that again, Susan.
Hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah.
The look back is purely everything's visible when you look back. I really I love the though Baldrick's character was really lowbrow, he was written really there was a lot of intellect written into his character. I'm pretty much an instant fan of that.
How much of Blackadder have you seen before, Susan?
Oh, about
how many episodes?
10 episodes total, maybe 12. I kept seeing the same one over and over and over again on public television.
Because they repeat the same ones. Yeah.
I mean, the original ending of this particular Blackadder episode originally had Baldrick, George, Darling, and all the troops being killed, but Blackadder survives by pretending to be dead.
Oh, really? Oh.
But they changed that because they felt that
that was a bit too, yeah.
It would be wrong, yeah. It didn't ring true.
Well, Blackadder's a bit of a slime ball, really, isn't he? Trying to get out of everything and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're the best characters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You relate to them, do you, Lee?
Oh yes. The villain is always the best part to play.
Oh yeah, all actors say that. Yeah. But Baldrick's fantastic. A fantastic comedy creation. Baldrick is just brilliant. Yeah, in all the series, Baldrick, I think, is the best. Does anybody else have anything to add about this episode then?
Actually, one thing I did mention is how it makes you realise that there are still sort of like enemies with machine guns out there. Like there's a lot of anti sort of empire, Austro-Hungary sort of jokes. That's like it makes you realise that there are above that trench there are still enemies out there. So it brings about the feel and the atmosphere of war. It's impressive. I just think it was a great episode.
I think it's very touching when they actually all say they're scared. That's the scene where they all say that they're scared. And it shows that war is stupid and pointless, really.
Well, that's another thing as well. When Hugh Laurie was talking about, like when Hugh Laurie was talking about how it wouldn't work about them just saying, just let's stop fighting, but you actually realise it may actually work. And I think even he feels like when he's saying those words, it will work. So it's just a great script full of actual emotion and not just cracking jokes for the sake of cracking jokes in a trench. It's just like it is real emotion.
But it's amazing when you think how well it's done, because it could be totally insensitive, couldn't it? It could be totally, insensitive to war and things like that, but it isn't. It's just amazing writing, and it makes you think. It's very powerful. Comedy, I mean, it's Richard Curtis, and he said something like, it's good comedy is dark, isn't it? It's dark. It's got a meaning to it. It's got a point to it. Good comedy has dark undertones, and this does have a dark undertone because it's about war, and stuff like that. It's like that Vicar of Dibley episode he wrote, where he did it about children needing that, didn't he? Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a good few years ago now that was.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
Yeah. Well, he's a big fundraiser, isn't he, for comic relief and stuff, isn't he? Richard Curtis. A big fundraiser for comic relief and all sorts of things like that. So, does anyone else have anything to add before Craig falls asleep?
Well, my final say on the thing is, it's an enjoyable watch. It makes you think, and this time of the month with Armistice Day and Remembrance Day coming up, we just should remember all those who's fallen in war, and that's all I'm going to say on the matter. Respect,
yeah, definitely, yeah.
Respect the fallen.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Craig, would you like to up your rating? We'll give you a chance to give it a 10. Go on. I'll give you a chance. Do you want to give it a 10? Nod your head if you want to give it a 10.
Yeah, I'll give it a 10.
You give it a 10, yeah, everybody's giving it a 10. There you go. So I'd like to thank everybody here for joining me. I'd like to thank you for watching. Do tell us below what you think about this episode of Blackadder. And as always, look after yourself, take care, and we'll see you next time.